from Anthony Stevens at Sonic Anim. With the recent announcement of the PlayStation Classic, do you think at some point the market will become oversaturated with the number of these mini emulation systems for consumers to purchase, or will everything sell fine like cheesecake?
Use some commas there, but Anthony, I've never heard the expression "sell fine like cheesecake" in my life.
Neither have I, but I do like cheesecake, and I bet you cheesecake does sell pretty good.
Yeah, there's a whole chain, Cheesecake Factory. You know, it's like chains. Cheesecake Factory isn't a bad chain, but
Cheesecake Factory is a fucking panic attack, like personified. Like,
well, there's too much stuff on the menu.
what? Well, there's too much shit going on.
It's
in the
worse.
restaurant.
It's like double the amount of things at a diner, and diner has everything, right?
A fucking Manic episode threw up, and that's how the restaurant came to be.
Jesus Christ! Okay.
Look at it. Look at it.
Oh, you're talking about for the styling.
The decor.
The decor is terrible because
The menu. I mean, everything.
It's like, okay, we have Greek columns, we have Egyptian art in the side. Like
it's the worst.
It's wannabe fancy for your night out for your $14 entree. That's what it is.
It's where you take your prom date.
Okay, I went to Applebee's for taking someone to their prom. It wasn't my prom, but anyway. Then I left my keys in my car.
I got fucked up on ecstasy and went to a rave for my prom.
Oh, okay. So I actually was. I'm not humble bragging here. I had a tweet that did well. That was put in the Twitter moment for when the PlayStation Classic was announced. I said, "Get ready for the upcoming video game crash of 2019 with the PlayStation Classic, N64 Classic, Sega Saturn Classic, TurboGrafx Classic, Virtual Boy Classic, Atari Jaguar Classic, Vectrex Classic, Bally Astrocade Classic, Fairchild Channel F Classic, Ellipsis." Thank God for 240 characters on Twitter. It was the best thing they ever did. I was snarky, yes, and people like that but we're getting there more sooner than we would think. NES Classic, and yes, we had this shitty, and people said, well, what about we had the shitty. Well, they didn't say that. I said that. What about the Genesis ones from AtGames? The quality of those Genesis ones are terrible. You cannot put them in the same conversation of the NES, Super Nintendo, and probably the PlayStation ones. AtGames. Speaking of AtGames, are coming out with the new what was it called? Blast. The Blast all-in-one console and controller line, or the legacy console for 50 games. So these have been coming out for the past 3 years in bulk, en masse, like the Retrobit generations and their follow-up, because the generations did terrible from Retrobit. We've had the Atari flashbacks, the Intellivision flashbacks, and things like that. But now with the NES and Super Nintendo Classic, you're actually getting into now the market where the companies producing them still matter. Like a television, sorry Tommy, doesn't really matter at this point. Atari, for its namesake, doesn't really matter. But Sony still does, and those PlayStation properties still matter. The NES properties still matter to an extent, and they're still putting out those franchises. And Super Nintendo, N64. And we know N64 is going to be coming at some point. PlayStation is coming sooner than later. But the question is going to be then, how many more companies are going to capitalize on this? And I think you're going to see more than what you originally thought. I think you will. I think you're going to see... the Genesis one for sure.
Yes.
AtGames is no longer doing it.
Thank goodness.
Sega's going to go someone that's going to do a respectable job, we hope. But I do think you're going to see the N64 one. I do think you're going to see another Sega one, maybe not the Saturn one, since they can't figure out the emulation correctly. But who knows? Maybe you'll see a Master System Classic for the hell of it. Why not? If the other one did well, why not put it up? Maybe it'll do better. Do better in South America and in Europe and Japan than here.
Sure.
But it'll do okay. I think you might see something like a PC Engine TurboGrafx Classic. I think this opens up the door now to all these possibilities.
Possible.
It does. Now, what happens then when that happens and 6 of these are released a year? And you go into Target and there's no shelf space for them, or you go into Walmart. See, what benefited those older Intellivision and Atari ones was that they were the only ones out there to do that. And I guess then the ColecoVision one came at some point. So when those only ones were out there, and those started, like 2003 or 4? Those started a little bit earlier than that?
Yeah, I mean, it was before I moved here. So I moved here in 2005. I know I've seen the Atari ones earlier than that.
So those had the benefit of being a novelty at the time.
Right.
Those are like, what the hell? We can play older games that I haven't thought about. I'm a 30-year-old, and 2003, when I was 5 years old, I was playing these 25 years ago, in like 1980. So that was the charm of those. I guarantee you those aren't still being played today. Those are junked. You see them at the swap meet every now and then, but they sold a decent amount.
Well, that's what's going to happen with these.
You think it's going to happen? This is just new.
Doesn't
fodder.
matter that these are higher quality. I'm glad that they're higher quality, and that's nice. But enough of these are going to get pumped out, and they're individual units. Yes, they can be hacked, but in their base state, you can't add more to them, and there's still going to be toys in the toy box that at some point people are going to have to clear out.
You have to deal with the trade-ins at Luna Video Games 2 locations.
Yeah, and a lot of places don't take these used, and so they're going to end up in flea markets and swap meets.
If you think even if they can test them, they wouldn't take them used. They can just plug them in real quick to an HDMI TV and just see if they run.
I don't know. I don't think. Places like GameStop don't take them now, to my knowledge.
I would think that these would be able to sell. These aren't like a flashback. Like if you had an NES Classic use, you'd sell it at Luna. You probably would sell it.
We didn't for the longest time. We finally just took our first used one in as kind of a test to see if.
But I'm just saying though. But that'll sell. It hasn't sold yet.
No.
What do you have on it?
I think like 40.
And people still. Wow. Okay. Maybe. All right.
We'll see.
Someone go to Luna and buy it for $40.
I don't know what it was. I think it's 40.
But you are open to it. You try it out, see if it works.
Yeah, we'll see. It's not something we ever really want to do.
The less moving parts on like a PS4 though, or PS3.
Yeah.
If it works, it works. It'll probably, you know what I mean?
Either way, I still think these are gonna flood.
They're gonna flood.
I think in 5 years we'll see these at flea markets, no problem.
Hey, I'll be the first one to buy a PC Engine Classic / TurboGrafx. I'll be the first one to buy it. I will. But there's gonna be it's gonna be like a mini crash, a mini crash.
Mm-hmm.
That's of some level, because some will fail because there's only so many mini. Once you get to the 5th one you bought, okay, that's enough.
Right.
I don't need the Fairchild mini. You might want the Emerson Arcadia mini though.
I might.
You might.